have a perfectly scripted Hollywood-type story. Ohio medical student, a future in front of him, and then suddenly he disappears after a night out on the town.
So he went out that night and walked from his apartment with Clint over to a bar called the Ugly Tuna. And from 1:30 to 2, he was there, and there's surveillance cameras all over that place, inside and out. And exactly 1:57 in the morning, that's the last time anybody saw anything.
It just looked like a guy with a couple friends out having a good time to me, and that's what scares me more than anything, I think.
Columbus is one of the most surveilled cities. There is probably not 1 inch of any block in that area that can't be seen by law enforcement in some way. So the question is, how does a body leave a building when you have so many surveillance cameras surrounding the place?
I've been to it many times, and I could see all 4 corners of that bar. I thought, I don't understand how you lose somebody in here. Like, it's not big enough to lose a person in.
I worked a number of cases in missing persons, and this one is drastically different. And the result of that is right from the way it started.
Both he, Clint, and Meredith were coming up the escalators. You see he was communicating, seemed happy, more or less leaning against the side here. The camera is the one that captured him standing in this area.
I took the opportunity to spend some time in and around the Ugly Tuna Saloon. I'm trying to think, how did he do this? I try to walk down steps. I try to go to different locations. There's cameras everywhere. There's really nothing in there that would concern me inside or out. But more importantly, I'll tell you why I was confident even more so. In the video, you'll see the Columbus police officer standing there, 2 and 3 at a time. If somebody wanted to take Brian and remove him from there, or if Brian wanted to sneak out, you're certainly not going to do it from a location that's got police officers standing there, armed, cameras, and you're just not going to do it. It's too much of a risk.
Perhaps somebody put his body in a trash can, which is why police were found searching landfills and specific spots where the dumpsters would have dumped the trash at that landfill, because that was a theory.
A lot of people believe that Brian could still be buried in the bar, in the walls, or in the construction area.
We started at the roof, we worked our way down. Any indication that maybe he was stuffed in a floorboard somewhere. The floors are all cement. The walls, and they're block or plaster cement. There's just no way Brian was left anywhere in that building. I mean, it was searched with a fine-tooth comb. We had the cadaver dogs come in and go through that building, and had he been in there, even if he was covered up with dirt, they would have hit on it and picked up on it. One of the theories is he went down and got out the fire escape. There was only 2 ways into the Ugly Tuna at that time. It was through the door at the escalator or the fire escape.
That fire escape is an emergency exit that was within the Ugly Tuna Saloon bar. It would come out just to the side of the original doors he used to enter the Ugly Tuna Saloon.
We did interview the manager at the Ugly Tuna Saloon, and they said that nobody at any time went down the stairs and exited through those doors. We did check the other cameras in the courtyard, and we still weren't able to pick him up.
There's a lot of rumors that one of the ways Brian could have gotten out of the bar is by jumping over the 2nd floor balcony. With his height, yes, it is possible, but I do think that with as crowded as the campus area was at the beginning of spring break, that would have been noticed by someone.
When you exit the Ugly Tuna Saloon, to your right would have been the service elevator and the emergency stairs going down into the hallway that runs behind the businesses. The van used that exit because they had equipment, they had to take the elevator. The detectives reviewed the video footage, and Brian did not leave with the van that night. Also interviewed each person in the van, and they all stated that Brian was not with them when he left the building that night.
We see Brian at 1:55 a.m. and the bar is closing at 2 a.m. So you have that 5-minute window of wondering what happened in that small window of time. Was somebody following him? Did something happen inside the bar, away from the cameras, that may have led to his disappearance?
It's strange that Brian went missing right before a planned vacation. He was very excited about the vacation. Not only was it the last gift that his mom had given him, but he had also spent hours upon hours researching this trip, trying to make it as perfect as it could be for the ultimate spring break trip.
Why would somebody who had everything going for him, a future doctor, a great relationship that he was in, suddenly say, I'm done, and give up and walk away? He had a family that loved him. When you actually see the video of him going up that escalator, nothing seemed out of the ordinary for him. So you have to wonder what was going on behind the scenes. He just lost his mother to cancer. They were very close.
His mom died 3 weeks before Brian's disappearance.
I do think that it's possible that Brian could have chose to walk away from his life. He had a lot of stressors. One of those things would be a lot for most people, but to have multiple things such as his mom dying and medical school and finals.
I've heard that he may have said to Alexis prior to his disappearance, you just need to move on and find someone else. I really think that Brian had a hard time. I mean, he was late to his mother's funeral.
The day he went missing, it was very strange that he made an attempt to see every person he cared about. Brian began his evening by going to dinner at the Outback Steakhouse with his dad. Brian reached out to his brother and had invited him to come to dinner that night. He had called Alexis.
If I go down that path, that Brian ran away because he was stressed and just needed a break. It is really hard to cover your tracks. Now, Brian was intelligent, but would I do that after a night of drinking? Probably I wouldn't. I wouldn't choose that night.
One of the things that we examined was, did Brian have enough money to be able to flee without telling anybody? We originally thought that he's got to have a lot of money that's out there in loans, the cost of the school itself. Turns out that his mother, she was making a lot of the payments for the school and so forth to help him out. We were never able to find anything that would show that he was running out of money or that he was totally out of cash.
As far as Brian's credit debit cards, Randy had canceled those in fear that somebody might have stolen them. So we weren't able to pick up anything from the bank as regard to somebody using it.
When Brian went missing, he had not received his portion of his mother's life insurance yet, and that check was close to $20,000.
One of the things that we looked at, there was a check that Randy had given to Brian to pay for his tuition for the next quarter.
A check for $4,500. However, that check was never turned into Ohio State. Maybe Brian had just forgotten to turn it in, or maybe Brian chose not to turn it in because he had no plans of going back to school that next term.
Now, do I feel that something had to have happened to make him leave on his own? Yeah, something. I mean, people don't get up and normally just walk away from their lives.
Emotional issues that are held in, at some point they're going to come out. Is that the night they come out? Did something in that bar set him to think about his mom again when he was trying to kind of push it away and have a good time? And did he then remember that, start thinking about it, and something clicked? Because of all the studying and everything else that was on his mind, now his mother's passed away.
Another question that has come up is, did Brian commit suicide?
I did not get the impression at all that Randy felt that he was suicidal. And the thing I always come back to is, it's pretty hard to hide your body after you killed yourself.
27-year-old has his life in front of him and he disappears.
A medical student goes out for a night on the town and is never seen again.
They looked at every piece of surveillance video and they don't see him.
With cameras covering the entire area, where could Brian have gone?
Was somebody following him? Did something happen inside the bar?
How do you literally vanish off the face of the earth?
Real life nightmare. New episode, Sunday at 9 on HLN.